Good evening. Hi. Okay, so can you hear me? Can you see me? New camera. So I kind of had to also expand the beautiful background because the new camera is expansive. So there's a lot more to see. So I had to put up more wallpaper. Luckily, I still had more. And yeah, this is the new thing. I don't have my lights up. I'm not sure if I want to bring the lights back or not. Y'all let me know. Okay, so camera looks fantastic. Good. I hope it looks better than before. You can even see my little stool I have here. My little support stool. Now I'm going to keep my drinks on here because it's so much easier. Hydrate. Okay, everybody get a drink. Stay hydrated. All right, so I hope y'all are doing well. Love your shirt, LG. Thank you. I love my shirt too. I actually, somebody asked me, he's like, is that an acid bath shirt? And I'm like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, I went to the show in September. And like, oh, I wish I could go. And I'm like, it was wonderful. Dax sounds just amazing. I wish I could go back. That was an amazing show. If you are an acid bath fan, if you ever get a chance to see them, if they come in your area, or even if it's like a little drive to see them, highly, highly, highly recommend seeing acid bath. It's like stepping back into like when you first discovered them so many years ago. I've been on this little pedestal about reminiscing and just like beaming about acid bath, and I won't do it. I'll stop here. But if you ever get a chance to see acid bath in concert, please do. They are absolutely phenomenal and deservedly one of my absolute favorite bands. Actually, probably in my top 2. Right there with him. All right. Anyway, how's your night, y'all? Yeah, how y'all doing? Y'all having a good night? It's kind of been a wild week. This is the last. Wait, is this the last stream of the month? Where's my calendar here? Wait, no. Is there one more? I gotta see. Is this month already over? No, we have. Wow, there's 5 Fridays this month. So next Friday is the last stream of the month. 5 Fridays. That's a lot of Fridays. Anyway, we got one more stream this month, and then the first month of the year is already over. Like, it was just New Year's. I don't know how and why it's gone by this fast. But it's been such a wild 24 hours, y'all. I posted a clip from this video I found of Peter Steele, and I woke up, like I posted it last night before I went to bed, and I woke up with over 100 more followers than I had the night before. And I was like, okay, what did I do? What did I do this time? Because, you know, getting like a positive number of followers is a good thing, but I know the shenanigans that I get into. So I was like, okay, what did I do this time? And it was Peter Steele talking about, you know, how he feels about people, you know, on like government assistance, and how the interviewer was calling him right wing, and he was like, call it whatever you want, you know. So it was just that video clip, and it just kind of like blew up, which it's Peter Steele. Deservedly, he deserves to just like be everywhere. You know, the guy's gone way too soon. But I think I'm over 400 plus now from that video of new followers, which if you are new here, welcome. This is an every Friday thing. I get on here, I talk, you know, whatever. Usually it's going to be current events from like a libertarian perspective. A lot of times it's just rambling, you know, a lot of talk with the chat. We just kind of hang out and talk shit on the government, talk shit on current events, and we just have a lot of fun in here. So yeah, if you are new, welcome. And also the Instagram is blown up too. I do have Instagram. Same video. And it's got, like, last I checked, it was like over 46K views for Instagram. That, like, for me, that's huge. So I've actually gone like over 100 followers on Instagram past 24 hours is over 20 or something like that. And it's harder to get followers on Instagram, so that was just my mind. And the lead singer of Metro Station actually followed me on Instagram, which was, I was like, what? The Shake It guy? So yeah, I think I actually might have that song in my phone. I don't know. Anyway, so we have some news to talk about. There are some things that I was like, do I talk about this? Do I talk about that? Like, I feel like every week we're talking about Minnesota, and it's getting kind of old. Luckily, Trump is always going to bring us some crazy stuff. Always. My Make America Gothic has. Yes, it is. I saw it shipped. I saw, was it yesterday or something? It shipped. So hope you enjoy it. I love mine. I almost wore it, but I decided not to. Okay. So I want to talk about Davos first, because like I said, we're always talking about Minnesota right now. And it's just kind of like Minnesota. I'm not saying it's become like the Florida right now, but it's just kind of like, it's always in the news and it's never good. And it's kind of like the most random state to be that way. So let's talk about Davos first, because Trump went to Davos. At first, initially, Air Force One took off to go to Davos, and they had to turn around, and everyone was just like, "Oh, prayers," that's worried about it, because anytime like a plane turns around like mid-flight, it's just like, "Oh no, what happened?" And Trump is like, what, in his 80s, so everyone's just like questioning, but it was just some minor electrical thing. It was just precautionary. So then he went on his way. But one thing that Trump really wanted to bring up a lot at Davos was the topic of Greenland. He's not letting it go. Now, when he first started bringing it up, it was great for memes. Like the memes that came about it, are just awesome. However, he wasn't just trying to say things for the memes, which sometimes he does say things for the memes. He's serious. This guy like really wants Greenland, and he's not letting up. So at Davos, he made it clear. Now he has said that there is a plan, that they have some sort of deal for Greenland. Now he's talking like he's optimistic that we actually made a deal to either obtain Greenland or have some sort of control with Greenland. And it seems like other countries are just kind of like, like they're kind of, they seem a bit apprehensive. I know that there's so many other European countries that are talking big talk about sending troops over to Greenland to protect them. I'm sorry. Okay. I am a non-interventionist. I'm going to say that first and foremost. But I know that the United States has the biggest dick on earth. So when I hear about these little European countries trying to puff up their chests about, we're going to protect Greenland. All right. We went and basically like snatched up a world leader in 3 hours? But actually only took like 35 minutes to do it. Like, we have the biggest dick on the planet. If we really wanted to take Greenland militarily, we could. I don't want us to take it militarily. The only way that I'm down with the whole Greenland thing is I heard that if we take Greenland or find a way to obtain Greenland, that it gets us out of NATO. And I want out of NATO so bad. NATO is such a money pit for us. And it's just the biggest... It's one of the most destructive organizations that we're in right now as any kind of allied nations is NATO, because it's got us in, not only in shit with Russia, but it's got us kind of like at odds with Russia, because after the Cold War, Russia's like, yeah, I went in. We're like, no, you can't join our club. It's just one of those things where it's like we get dragged into stuff because of this whole allies thing. Now, George Washington didn't think we should form any kind of long-term, allies because of this. Yet, what are we doing? We're in NATO right now. Okay, we need out of it. Having this kind of allyship for so long gets us into shit. Like, that's one big thing about the Ukraine, or not the Ukraine, thing of Ukraine, because they say don't say the Ukraine. One thing about Ukraine is, they want in, and if they get in, that means all the other countries kind of have to jump to their defense, like have to, based on, the agreement. But we, like I said, having the biggest dick on the planet, we also pay for everything, which I hate, of course. So I don't want us to be dragged into anything that we could possibly end up having to pay more for. We already, subsidize like most or all, most of Europe. I don't say all, most of Europe's military, and they're able to afford more stuff. We fund most of NATO, but yet we're not even in Europe. They don't even let us go to Eurovision, and we're paying for most of NATO. Okay, we don't get to participate in Eurovision. Have y'all seen Eurovision? It is like, it's like a pride parade, but on cocaine and thrown into some sort of like craft store all at the same time. So if you take a pride parade, have it march into a Michael's, give it tons of cocaine, that's Eurovision. And we don't get to play in it. Australia does. So, yeah. I don't know. We don't get to play in Eurovision, but we pay for NATO. So, you're welcome for all the, military assistance that we pay for while you get to have your little Eurovision. But, yeah, we would win anyway. Yeah, we have we have such a vast array of talent, but maybe we're a little less like eclectic to be in Eurovision. I digress. But there's moments that Trump had at Davos, and as the title of the stream, Daddy Davos, this man, he cracks me up. Okay, like I said many times, I like the man a lot more than I like his policies or his politics. He's so funny. At Davos, at the WEF, in front of all these world leaders, he says, they call me daddy. He's like, he just doesn't care. He just says like the most outlandish things, and it's so funny. And I know I should be ashamed, not really ashamed, but like embarrassed that, that's our president. He's saying that. I'm sorry, that's really funny. That's just funny. Like, they call me daddy. So, so Trump goes to the WEF, tells them that they call him daddy, and really pushes the Greenland thing. He insults a lot of these world leaders, basically tells them that they're weak. He tells them about how bad all their immigration policies are, which there's a lot of truth to that. And some people are like, oh, Trump just hates immigrants. He just hates brown people. If you've seen the statistics, like the crime statistics of Europe, like 20 years ago to now, it's not because like European men have decided to just become, major rapists and like assholes and violent. There's been a huge influx of people from third world countries into Europe. And even at Davos, there was, his name escapes me. I didn't even get his name, but he even said the old Europeans are far right. And basically that's saying like the new Europeans are now the people from the third world. I'm sorry, but European, it is an ethnicity. And I'm not to, make it sound like it's any kind of like racial thing or anything. their ancestry is from there. That is the homeland of the Europeans. So that's essentially like a conquering. That's what it is. It is. And I'm not saying that to make it, accusatory or, to make it sound like it's anything hateful, but they are changing the actual landscape of Europe in that sense. Because if you do DNA tests, it says this, your ancestors come from this part or this part, like Germany or Italy, because that's the homelands of these people, like these ancestral homelands. And now they're considered the old Europeans because they've flooded it with lots of people from the third world. And Trump got up there and basically told them how much shit that is. Like, he's right. He's absolutely right. Now, I'm not saying that, people shouldn't, accept immigrants. I'm not saying that people, immigrants shouldn't be here. Like, I'm the daughter of an immigrant. But what I'm saying is, like, a lot of those people that have flooded Europe, they just flooded it. It's not like they went about any kind of right way to, go and contribute to Europe. I know that there's a huge, like, over 50% of a certain population in the UK of an immigrant, like, demographic is on, like, the government assistance. It doesn't even work. Like, when you immigrate to a place, you should be going with the intention to, like, give back or to contribute to that society, to that new place you're going to. Because obviously the place that you left wasn't that great. So if you're going to go to a place that you see is better, you should be wanting to improve the place into, give back and contribute. Show some sort of gratefulness that you're there in a place that is better, that has accepted you. But what has been happening in Europe, they've had loads of terrorist attacks. They've had attacks on, like, the Christmas markets in Germany. There was a bombing at an Ariana Grande concert in the UK. Endless knife attacks. There was attacks in Paris with syringes at, I believe it was like a festival or a concert. And it's just almost never ending. And every now and then, like, they try to say that all these attacks, but yet they want to talk about, like, the United States and, like, school shootings. I'm not saying that our school shootings are a good thing or, like, that they should be minimized, because, those are horrible as well. But, they are just as guilty as having, a violent culture. But that's because they've imported the third world where people don't have the same values. The statistics on crime and sexual assault have risen exponentially in Europe. So, I think Trump is very right in telling them, hey, your immigration policies suck. Y'all have just kind of, like, let people in that are ruining your countries. And they are, I'm not saying that they send them all back, but, they have a tendency to not send back people even after they've committed crimes. I believe it was Sweden where a migrant raped a 16-year-old girl, and they didn't deport him or charge him a certain level because they said it didn't last long enough. I'm sorry, but rape is rape. It doesn't matter if it lasted 5 minutes or 5 hours. That was just the most disgusting thing. And that poor girl's got to live with that trauma that the judge just sentenced him less. I can't even believe the kind of two-tier justice system that they have. And then they still continue to arrest people in the UK for memes and social media posts. It's I need a tea. I need tea. It's like, you'll have Europeans say, oh, American, you're talking shit and this and that. I know the problems that we have. Okay. They say, don't, like, pick the splinter out of your neighbor's eye without, tending to the plank in your own. I'm very well aware of our issues here, but what Trump said about their immigration issues definitely has some credence. It absolutely has some credence. So he got into them about that. There was also was that Mike Carney being a little bitch. I don't get Canada. I really don't get Canada. Like, I have some Canadian followers, and y'all are all amazing. But your prime ministers, like, before this one was Trudeau. Trudeau was basically a woman. And Carney isn't much better. So he's making terrible moves. Like, we are to the south of Canada, right? Canada is our hat. And he's basically run into the arms of China, which in a way shouldn't be surprising because Canada is so far left. They may as well be like socialist commies and such. But I don't know. People, I feel like he's running to China to spite Trump. And it's kind of like trying to get one in on Trump is kind of getting old now. Like, they do it just to get one in on him. They're not doing it because it's really how they feel or, against any kind of principles or anything else. If you're doing it just to spite somebody, like, grow up, because that's not what's going to be best for his country. Because we are directly to the south, like, come on, dude. You should be wanting to, work with Trump and have better relations. And it's just, he's not. He's a little bitch. He's absolutely a little bitch. So it's, yeah. So yeah. So Trump goes to Davos, says, they call me daddy. Gets on them about their poor immigration stances and policies and what they've all done, like flooding their countries. And it seems like he's just going over there and giving them a big shellacking, which is very Trump of him. And I do like that. I like that about him, that he'll go over to Europe and talk shit to their face. So that's that's wonderful, because as much as I love my European followers and friends, okay, this is not directed at you, but it's just almost like some sort of never-ending feud with the United States and everybody else. So any chance to insult Europeans, I think, is fun and funny, and I'm here for it. But he did one amazing thing. The daddy thing was hilarious, but the best thing he did was withdraw us out of the WEF now. That's one less thing for us to spend money on and be forced to participate in. And I loved it. That was a good call. Like, thank you, Trump, for taking us out of the WEF. We didn't really need to stay in there. Now, get us out of NATO, please. Pretty please. Yeah. That's a pipe dream, though, to get out of NATO. It's a total pipe dream. Now, if he gets us out of NATO, then, like, that'll definitely make me happy, for sure. Because that's more money that we don't need to be spending. Out of the WEF, wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Like, that's a start. Absolute start. Like, not everything Trump has done I've disapproved of. I definitely approve of this one. But next, NATO, please, Mr. President, exit us out of NATO, please. Anyway. All right, moving on. Back to the topic of Minnesota. And it's getting daunting. I'm so tired of talking about Minnesota. But on last Sunday, some assholes raided a church. They said they protested it, and they're talking about their First Amendment rights and such. They violated the civil rights of those people in that church who had the right to their own to practice their religion. I'm not a religious person. However, I am very rabidly pro-Christian. I defend Christians and Christianity because that's who and what built the Western world. And the Western world is what I live in. The Western world is what has given me all I have, the freedom I have, the ability to do what I do. If I lived in an Islamic country, I wouldn't be here. Y'all would not even know who I am. But I live in the Western world, and I am here talking freely as a woman, and I can do so because Christianity built the Western world. So these protesters go in. Apparently the pastor or preacher or minister, I don't know exactly what, I don't know what denomination it was. Apparently he like works with ICE or something. So they said that it was some sort of like white supremacist church, which is, that's stupid. Like you see pictures, there's actually people of different races there. So this was private property because it was church property. And they brought their protest onto there. I'm sorry, but if you're on church grounds, which is private property, that's no longer a protest. Like, you are invading a private space. And they went in there and disturbed church services. Now, the people in the church were so much more gracious than these people deserved. There was a video. I'm not going to give the guy's name because I don't want to give him any kind of clout, any kind of credit. You can find his name. Okay. He looks like a bum. He's got a bushy ass beard and he wears this beanie that says F Trump. And, he just thinks he's just this big revolutionary. Obviously, he looks like some homeless guy. He takes some video in this church and says, look at these people worshiping these, like racists or whatever. He's just on his high horse in this church during church services, just insulting these people and just bothering them while they're trying to do their, their hymns and their worship. Like, you really think you're the good guy? These people are doing their worship, their Sunday worship. They had kids there. There's a picture of a father consoling his son who was scared of these people just storming in their church like this. Now, Christianity says turn the other cheek. Part of me is, wishing that they didn't, but they absolutely did. And they treated them with a lot more graciousness than they would have been treated the other way. And they were just like absolutely harassed. There has been so much, like there's been shootings at, Catholic schools and just so much against Christians these days. It's like the only people that it's like a free pass on, and it's disgusting. Luckily, and stupidly on these people's part, they challenged Pam Bondi to come at them and arrest them. She did, or at least 3 of them. The homeless looking dude, he did some sort of press conference to make it look like he was some sort of good guy, that this was all a great noble protest, and he even traded his F Trump beanie for a plain black one, I guess for appearance's sake, And he was saying, yeah, no, arrest me. She did. At least someone's been arrested. Unfortunately, it's not enough arrests, in my opinion. There's a lot more arrests that need to be done because we still don't have all of the Epstein files, Pam Bondi. All right? You've missed like 2 deadlines, woman. Anyway, so he gets arrested. The woman that organized it gets arrested. And there was like one other person that got arrested too. Now, the organizer and the homeless looking dude, those are on my thumbnail of this video, of this stream, whatever. So yeah, if you insist on looking at these people, it's the before picture and then it's the after picture. It's the one where they're, all like, arrest me, Pam Bondi, and just like, oh yes, we've got all this power, like blah blah blah, like, and then arrested. Fuck around, find out. And that's It's the fuck around photo and the find out photo. So, I had to include that in the thumbnail. I thought it was beautiful. So they've been arrested under, I believe it's like the some sort of like Klan act that I believe stems from whenever the Klan used to disrupt sessions, like prayer sessions and like church services in Black churches. There's been some really awful things that the Klan has done during Black church services. I believe it was I'm not sure if it was a bomb or if it was like a just like a Molotov cocktail of sorts, but I think it was a bomb at a Black church that killed one little girl, and that the Klan did. And I believe it stems from incidents like that. That it's like definitely a federal offense to maliciously go into this church services like that and terrorize people who are worshiping, which they did. They were terrorizing these people, absolutely terrorizing. I don't know what they thought they were gonna get. The guy is saying in his little press conference, people were still praying, they were still singing, they were still going about their church service. Like, you were still harassing them, dude. Like, you were still, causing a scene. You were still making these people feel very unsafe and uncomfortable. Like, your mental illness was absolutely on display. Like, dude comes in there waving more red flags in a Soviet parade with his attitude and, scared children. And he intended to. And Don Lemon, of course, as you all know, he was tipped off about this protest, really a church raid. And he goes in there and starts, like, doing his journalist shit. Like, I get you want to cover the story, but I think Don Lemon is almost just as guilty, because this whole act was just like a performative, like almost like terrorism in this church, terrorizing these people. And Don Lemon goes in, like, you go in, I get you want to do the journalistic thing. And I know Owen Schroyer says that Don Lemon shouldn't be arrested because he was just acting and behaving like a journalist. But these people were currently in the act of doing this and terrorizing these people in this church. I think that's very different than if he were to be outside the church and interview people as they were coming out about what just happened. Going in during the act is just as bad as participating in the act, in my opinion. So I do think Don Lemon should face the same charges as the others who have been arrested, because he goes in, he's basically participating, because the current terrorizing of the church folk is going on, and he's there in it. So yeah, Don Lemon absolutely should be charged. The guy is a washout and a has-been. He's trying so hard to stay relevant, and in the process, he's just shown how absolutely stupid he is, and why firing him was probably the greatest thing that they've ever done. Like, can somebody give him a job? He's getting annoying. Like, I try to say McDonald's hiring, but I don't even think he can get a job at McDonald's at this point. Especially harassing Christians during church service. Anyway, before I forget though, before I'm going to continue talking, hit like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. My channels, my profile thing, this is growing. I do talk news, current events. I do talk alternative culture, as well, with the whole, like, goth is not political thing. I've been doing this spiel for quite some time. And if you like, hit like, share, subscribe. Anyway, all right, yeah. So it's just continuing in Minnesota, right? And now, apparently, local law enforcement are finally getting involved. So it's like, it's not getting as heated. Like, if it's just ICE, it seems that people, are more inclined to be more bold and brazen. But now local law enforcement is getting involved, and it seems like it's, starting to die down. I don't get why they shouldn't have been involved in the first place. I don't see why the feds kind of had to step in and do all this, because I don't like the idea of feds like patrolling the streets or having to patrol the streets. But they were doing so because the local law enforcement wasn't doing jack. They were doing the local law enforcement's job, and they shouldn't have been. But yeah. Hang on. I think you're getting it backwards. The people interrupting the church service are violating the First Amendment by censoring speech of the church attendants by interrupting. It's not just the church. It's not just a speech. They're interrupting them practicing their religion, their freedom of religion, by interfering in their worship. So it can be a twofer. It can be their speech, and it can be their worship in general, since they have the right to religion and they were being accosted for. Yeah. How's the tea? It's wonderful. It's unsweet mint tea with the little energy kick in it. I don't think I'm gonna get that energy kick next time. It kind of puts a slight sour bit on it, and I really just like the mint tea by itself. But it's good. It's good. I was planning someone to say the First Amendment doesn't apply to. Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I still brought it up anyway. For good or for bad, Trump seemingly wants to do what the soft on crime state cities want to. Yeah, and here's the thing, is that it's bad that it's gotten to the point where the feds kind of have to get involved. Like I said, I don't like the idea of feds getting involved, because I'm not a fan of feds at all. You know, like I like to bully the federal agencies. Like I don't like feds. However, you know, as someone who would prefer local to be doing everything, local aren't doing shit. The role of government should be to protect freedoms, like enforce the NAP, for instance. I don't think that government should have or do much, but I think protecting the freedoms of the citizens and enforcing the NAP should be what the government does do. And the local governments are falling short on that. They absolutely are, because crime is running rampant. People don't feel safe. You know, so that means that people are violating the NAP rampantly. And, you know, nobody's protecting them. You know, there's people who can't protect themselves. So, unfortunately, since they're not doing it, the feds are getting involved. And I understand the necessary evil of that. And I really implore local governments to do their fucking job. If they were doing their job, the feds wouldn't have to step up. And I don't like the feds having to step up, period. So yeah. That's basically like the whole thing. And it all boils down to, once you think about it, it really does boil down to the fact that there's corrupt people that are in power, that want to stay in power, that don't want to step on any toes. That way they can keep votes. That's literally what it is. Because they're bringing in a lot of people. They're not having them show any ID to vote. And then they're getting in office. And they stay in power. And that's what they want to do. And then if you see all this fraud that's been coming up, you know, they all have their hands in the cookie jar. Like, if we were to find out all these politicians that are getting kickbacks, you know, getting to stay in power and getting kickbacks from like all these fraud, like fraud rings and such, because that's what it is. It's fraud rings. Like the Somalis in Minnesota, those are fraud rings, because you know that they know each other. Even the Somalis have said that it's a community and everybody kind of knows each other and helps each other. So it is basically like a Somalian fraud ring. So please mention who, the WHO. Yeah, I hope we can get out of that. Did we get out of that too? I hope so. If not, we need to get out of it. Although The Who is an awesome band that I was raised listening to. So I don't really play a mean pinball though. So it all does boil down to the fact that these local governments don't want to step on any toes because they want to stay in power. And these, not rural, but the urban areas are usually Democrat controlled. I'm not saying Republicans aren't corrupt, but the most blatant, worst corruption comes from Democrats. It's just plain and simple. That can be proven. Like I said, not saying Republicans are not corrupt. There's plenty of corrupt Republicans. Plenty of them. But the most blatant, widespread corruption comes from Democrats. And that's who run, like, cities. Blue cities. That's why they're called blue cities. I can't name a single city, like actual city, that is red. Can you? Anyway. I support the crowd's passion, but I wish they'd have the energy towards 40% of our income getting stolen to fund so much crap and creating oppressive laws and regulations that they do for. Yeah, and that's one thing that the left does well. I will give them credit for this. They're very good at fear-mongering. They're very good at getting their bases riled up. And they're very good at paying people to protest and do shit. To make it, for optics, to even make it look like it's a bigger deal than it is. Because there are people who are paid to protest. And so that adds to the optics that there's a bigger outcry for certain things and certain issues than there really is. And then they have people who are there legitimately, who have given into the brain rot fear-mongering. Or fear porn, that I call it. Because, you know, they love the oppression. They love to be feeling up. Like it just kind of, they're always at this level up here. They love feeling that way. They love feeling that, oh, oppressed, you know, doing something like righteousness. And the left really feeds into that whole like LARP that these people do. Like they're so bored in their lives, or their lives are meaningless, or they have no power in their lives, or they just suck at life in general. So like they throw them these like, hey, there's this protest going on. Save the brown people who are just getting kidnapped off the streets, who are actually child molesters that have warrants out for their arrest and are not here legally, you know? But of course they don't tell them that, you know? And they're shocked whenever they hear that, oh, you were picking up a child rapist. Oh, okay. But yeah, the left is really good about, you know, bringing people in on that. You know, I do think that there are some people who have, their hearts are in the right place. I don't think all of them are pieces of shit. But there are some that get too radical with it. And they absolutely lose their humanity. Like we've talked about cancel culture before and how they think they're righteous in what they do, but what they do is they're actually ruining somebody's life over something that is actually quite trivial, like different opinions. And then somebody's life is actually legit ruined. But the ruiners think that they're in the right for some reason. They think that they're the good guys, that they're on the right side of history, but they ruined somebody's life. You know, we've talked about Brian Groffner here and had him on a couple times. You know, he's a good friend of the stream. And the left just really caters to people who are bored, mentally ill, that feel powerless and want some power. And that's also kind of, in a way, how they've tried, I'm saying tried, because I know they haven't, tried to take over alternative subcultures. Like they say, you can't be like conservative and be goth. Well, goth is not political to begin with. And, you know, just because the left likes to pander and cater to outcasts doesn't mean that all outcasts subscribe to that same ideology. I used to be leftist. I used to be a radical leftist. I was actually involved in the PERG organization. If you don't know what the PERG organization is, it had to do with like Ralph Nader, and it's been so long. But it was like it's a public interest research group. I was actually involved in that in college. And yeah, I was a leftist. I was like a radical leftist. And then I just had a date with a Ron Paul guy. And then I learned some stuff. And then I found Alfonso Rachel on YouTube, learned a lot from there, went conservative anyway. And then libertarian at the end, after the bump stock ban. But yeah, I digress. Hell yeah. Anyway, I was an Obama supporter and voted for Bernie in 2016. Yeah, and a lot of people who went Bernie saw that the system was just rigged and corrupt. And I really feel like those people, like all the Bernie bros, felt really disillusioned. And some of them went to the Libertarian Party. And unfortunately, some of them still carried a lot of leftist like ideals and try to bring them to the Libertarian Party, which is why I'm not really happy with the Libertarian National right now. Especially because, Chase is he's not libertarian. I helped Ralph Nader build his deck on his condo in Palm Beach. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I never met him, but he was involved in the whole PERG organization. And that's like some leftist public interest research group. The guy who was heading it at the college I went to was an open Marxist. And yeah. So that's about that one. All right. So let's see. Let's chat more. Imagine my route going from commie to full capitalist over the past 15 years. That's quite a journey to go from commie to capitalist. Capitalism, what the left is like, or at least the whole like Marxist and stuff nowadays, it's all about, they say it's a whole greed, but it's envy. It's a lot of envy because they really also don't seem to understand capitalism. If they want to sell something on the Facebook marketplace, that's a form of capitalism. They're providing something that somebody wants and they exchange capital for it. That's all it is. And OnlyFans, that's a form of capitalism. And, even this right here, it's a form of capitalism. Content creation and such, it's capitalism. Because providing a service, providing, something in exchange for whatever. And they don't get that. The opposite of capitalism, they say, oh, the people own it. No, if it's capitalism, people that own stuff are the ones that do the exchange. The government's not involved. But once you take away that and make it into, communism, that's the state ownership. The people, the people are owned by the state. That's why they say that the people own it, but it's actually like the state, because who enforces it? The state enforces it. So, they don't understand. They're just rose-colored glasses about communism, and communism is just like, read some Ayn Rand, because that is just going to give you the best idea of communism. Specifically, like Anthem. Anthem was scary to me. Like Anthem, 1984 is a good one. Even though that's not Ayn Rand, that's George Orwell. But Ayn Rand actually came from Russia, and so she's knows about how it works and how communism is so destructive. So yeah, definitely read some Ayn Rand. If you have never read anything by Ayn Rand, I highly suggest you read Anthem. That's probably my favorite of hers. it was like horrifying to me. But it's definitely a good way to get an idea about communism. So yeah. Anyway, we kind of really grabbed it away from the whole Minnesota thing. I'm just bored about talking about Minnesota, y'all. It's just the same. Like, there's always something going on, but I feel like it's kind of the same thing. Like, I'm getting a kick more out of Trump saying that they call me daddy at Davos than I am just like, yeah, I like the fact that these people fucked around and found out, you know, but that's not the only arrest that we should get. You know, I feel like they're just kind of throwing us a bone here because we really want the people that are on the Epstein files that, you know, received girls from Epstein, or even boys, because there are some boys that were in there, unfortunately. So yeah. Are you a fan of George? I am a fan of George Orwell. I think he was definitely way ahead of his time. 1984 is the scariest horror novel I've ever read. And yes, to me, it is a horror novel, because as a libertarian, somebody who really values liberty and freedom and rugged individualism, it was horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. And that's another thing that I don't understand is communism is collectivism. And a lot of these alternative subcultures, they are just like pro-communist and pro-socialist. You know, if you're alternative, you're obviously pro-individualism. So why are you supporting systems that are collectivist and anti-individualistic? Even Mom Dami said, like, they will like rid rugged individualism like with the warmth of I just lost the word already. Yeah, it's just like, if you're an individualist, why and how can you support anything besides systems that support individuals? Collectivism, yeah. The warmth of collectivism, and get rid of rugged individualism. It makes no sense. How can you call yourself alternative and be against individualism? It is absolutely contradictory to everything. And these people, like, it's because their heart's in the right place. They say, oh, clean water for kids in schools and this and that. But no, they go deeper. There's things that they want and that they say are rights, but they don't understand if something requires the labor of another person, it's not a right. Like, healthcare cannot be a right because that requires the labor of somebody to provide that healthcare for you. And that's slavery. So you can't force somebody to care for you. If you do, that's slavery. So you don't have the right to healthcare. You know? Yes, it feels nice to say, but when you actually look at the reality of it, it doesn't work that way. Same with housing. You know, it's like saying this person has a right to housing. Okay, well, that means that you're forcing people to build it for you or to give you something that's not yours, that belongs to them. There's so many contradictions with people that being alternative and left that it just blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. This whole collectivist bullshit. And I don't know how people have really fallen for all this. And they really go rabid with it. And, you know, they think they're the good guys because their heart's in the right place, but they're fucking crazy. They're crazy. Libertarian Jesus said that in a lot of commie countries that had free healthcare, they always had medicine shortages. Yeah. And in Cuba, they have really bad medicine shortages. And they try to say it's because of the embargo, but medicine is not part of that. So they can't blame us. Although they try to say it's our fault, but it's not our fault. Medicine's not part of that. It's because of their system. Communism does not work. The only thing communists are good at are getting a hold of useful idiots to carry on the perception of revolution. They're really good at that. Anyway, so we're in the last 4 minutes, and this has been a lot of fun. I should have got some clips, but sometimes it's just like hard to get these clips in whenever it's just like you get to going and. But I didn't want to play that homeless guy's like "come at me, Pam Bondi" thing because I didn't want to give him or any of those other church raiders any more actual attention by showing their like videos of shit. They're on the thumbnail. That's enough. That's enough. I don't want to give them any more clout or credit. But I do want to find the clip where Trump says they call me daddy, just because I want it for my own self, because it's funny to him to say that all the European leaders that they call him daddy, and then he exits the WEF, which I feel like is just yes. Next is NATO. All right. It's getting late here. All right, so I'm going to have a word from our sponsor. Per usual. Now, if you watch the screen, you know where it's going. LibertarianGoth.com is the sponsor. The internet's largest alternative geared Liberty apparel. And of course, the Liberty Trap calendar. I am out of signed calendars, so my apologies. And Cyberbully the government. This is actually a very popular design right now. Cyberbully the government. You should cyberbully your government daily. Okay, you should do that like daily, just like brushing your teeth, making your bed. Like it's a part of being healthy. It's a part of having a healthy system. And we also have in jackets too, because it's getting cold. We have this cold front coming, get a jacket. We got hoodies, we got zip hoodies, got pinup art, mugs. And this is basically Trump at Davos. But this is from whenever Vance went over to Europe and basically said, fuck your speech laws. He didn't say that specifically, but I just thought it was funny because he made them cry. I'm not sure if it was like the German leader, but he made somebody cry, and that was absolutely hilarious. But don't forget to check out the Make America Goth Again hats. These are getting kind of infamous now. Make America Goth Again in trucker. My personal one that I have is the middle one, which is red letters. There's also beanies, dad hats, snapbacks, and shirts. There's also emo and metalhead. There's Make America Punk Again. I got all this stuff. So, just if you're bored, you can even just like see what I have all over. I have even swimsuits. I have shoes. I have stickers, whatever. You name it, I probably have it. So, yep, that is the sponsor for today and every day. Also get the calendar. August is fucking Thank you. I did my best. Although my favorite is September because I always put my favorite on my birth month. So yeah. All right, so I I hope you all had a great time tonight. There is a big winter storm coming through the country right now, so if you are in the path of it, please stay warm. I am in Texas. Unfortunately, the power tends to go out whenever we have any kind of cold wind blow. So hopefully the power stays on, and I don't freeze to death this weekend. But if you are in the path of this, stay warm, stay off the roads unless you know how to drive in it. And I'm being serious here because it sounds like it's supposed to be pretty gnarly. But I do hope you have a safe, fun, amazing weekend. And I do hope that you had a good time. I enjoyed my time with all of you. Thank you all for joining. And remember to always lead with kindness, unless they don't deserve it.